This is Andrew, and in this video we're going to go over how to write a modern style metal section. So I don't have any ideas for a song, I don't have any ideas of anything for what I'm about to write. I'm just going to go through my thought process and how I work in Logic and what tools I use to kind of write some kind of certain type of metal section. So usually what I do is I just create a new Logic file. I have a new audio file, or audio track rather, and right away, now it depends, sometimes I have an idea ahead of time, sometimes I don't. So sometimes when you have that idea, you want to start with that idea. Sometimes when I don't have an idea, I like to kind of force myself to have an idea. So what I did is I created a software instrument, and I'm just going to close that out. And what I'm looking to load here is Superior Drummer. Now you can use any kind of drummer you want. Doesn't really matter, but this is just the one I use. It works great. I like it a lot. Now I never use this for final drums, but it's fantastic for writing. So the idea is that first I'm just kind of setting up some settings I like. It doesn't really matter. And I want to try to program some kind of drum groove that I'm then going to turn into a guitar part. And then I'm just going to keep adding stuff as I think of it until I get a section that I like. So I have this kind of, this little tiny drum section here. And this is the kind of standard piano roll you get when you're programming drums. So I happen to know that C1 is bass drum, and I happen to know that this is a cymbal, and this is another cymbal, and this is a snare. Now you probably won't know that until you've done a lot of trial and error, but that's what it is for Superior. When you load in other drummers, it is usually different. C1 is usually bass drum, but it'll be different. So in Logic, if I want to access how to edit all this stuff, I go up here, click that, and each one of these is a MIDI note, so I can actually edit them separately. So I usually don't want my cymbals to be that loud, but what I do is I usually program some stuff first, and then I go back and make various things I want to change uniformly. So generally, the first thing that I'll actually program is just some kind of simple 4/4 drum beat. And I'm just going to duplicate it a little bit. I'll do 2 bars. So if you're writing some kind of modern metal, when I say modern metal, I guess I'm thinking of the more djenty type of stuff. I just tend to put that there. Sometimes it'll change. Sometimes I do a 3 bass groove, 4 bass, just whatever you feel like doing at the time. And then I'll just start programming bass drum patterns until I get something that I think sounds cool. I'm not liking that. And just due to the tempo of my song, I'm going to have to expand in here and do some 16th notes. Ooh, that's not what I wanted. Ooh, get an idea. Alright, so in my head, as I'm programming this, first I just literally click some random drum hits. Then in my head, as I'm going, I'm doing the typical Djent things that you see people make fun of when you kind of just mouth out the sounds, except I'm doing it in my head. So right now I have this kind of rough groove. And in my head I'm thinking, don't down, da da da, don't bow, or don't down, da da da, down, or down, down, down. And so I'm going to add the rest of these notes here. Now, this might sound very different when I play a guitar, and then I'll have to modify whatever I'm going to be doing to make sense and come up with something cool. So that's the kind of idea. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to track something. So the way I'm recording the audio right now is just through my computer speaker, so it probably doesn't sound very fantastic, but I hope it sounds good enough to get the idea. So I have my guitar set up. I'm plugged into my Pod HD 500. I'm going in direct through my audio interface, and I activate this track by doing this. And then I just hit R to record, and just because I feel like it, I'm using my 8th string drop tune down to E, just because it's what I have set up right now, and I'm imagining some kind of very low, kind of heavy thing. And I'm just going to kind of hit notes and just kind of keep going. And I have it on loop, so that way I can keep doing layers. And that's about it. So I'm just going to give it a go. Alright, so that is the idea. So I have all these loops. I'm just going to kind of flatten it. Now I'm going to duplicate the channel. So what I do is I tend to make these presets. So I have a basic rhythm guitar preset. That way I don't have to make some of the standard stuff every single time I want to make a new guitar track. So the volumes usually get a little screwed up, and it's not panned by default. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double track, which is a very common guitar technique. Now when you do this, when you kind of write and record as you go, sometimes you get very stale, section by section kind of sounding music. Sometimes it works perfectly. But the advantage of this is that when you're done, instead of having to write a song and then go and record a demo and then go and record your final version, you get to combine those first 2 steps. So you're writing your song and you end up with a demo. So you can actually hear a very good representation of how your song will sound when it's done. So I'm just going to play that exact same thing I just did, except on the right channel. And as you see, I'm peaking, so I'm just going to bring my volume down to like -8. It's usually somewhere like -8 or -10. That's good enough for now. Reset that. And now I'm just going to track it again. Now, I usually tend to switch my pickup switch, just because I feel like it gives it a slightly different tone, and it gives it the sound of switching your guitar sound when you're actually just switching your pickup, so it makes it a little faster. Alright, so that's that. And just the way that I recorded it, I'm getting this kind of weird cutoff at the beginning. So what I'll do is I'll drag that back. And this doesn't always work. So up here I click this, and this kind of gives me my option click. So I'm actually just going to add some kind of fade. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. Sometimes it doesn't work as good as you want it to. Sometimes you just have to deal with the click. Remember, this is just a writing thing. This is not your final tracking. Alright, so I'm just going to deal with it for now. So it is, now I have some kind of section that can inspire me to write my next section. So for now, I'm just going to loop the second drum part. And actually, I'll just loop it by itself. So my first part, dum, dum, down, dum, 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 down, dum, dum. And I could just duplicate it, and that's what might work for the song. I'm not going to do it here because I'm just not feeling it. So dum, dum, down, dum, 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 down, dum, dum. I want to change it somewhat, but keep the overall idea the same. So dum, 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 down, dum, dum. I'm going to do... I want to kind of give it a shifted rhythm sound, if you know what I mean. You probably don't, but I'll try to do it. So I have an idea. So I'm going to kind of get this first theme and do it twice. So dun 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 down dun 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 down dun dun. I want this to be here. Dun 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 down dun dun down dun dun. Dun 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 dun. And again, this is all just kind of as you go, making things up in your head, trying them, see where it works, and then just modify as you go. So in my head, I'm thinking, dun 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 down dun 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 down dun 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 dun. I don't know what the guitar part will be. It'll be something based off of that first section. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a loop, and I'm just going to kind of play stuff as I go. And I found that you can't have this show while you're recording. So what you have to do is you have to hit record, and then before it times in, click, and it'll show it for at least the first loop. It might show it for all the loops, but we'll see. That makes it so you have a visual guide. Now, sometimes when you can't do that, I'll just take a screenshot, pop it up, and look at it so that way I have a visual guide so I can remember the pattern I just programmed. But for now, I'll just try to do it. And I'm just going to go with that, which is the purpose of this video. So I'm going to go to my second track, switch my pickups, and then get ready to go. And as you can see, as I was just kind of listening, I added my crossfade just to speed up the process. Oh, because what I do is I have a tendency to smack the Command Save button very frequently. So what I'm just going to do now is I have to come up with a name. So I'm just going to call this, video or writing metal song 1 2016. Alright, so now I have a name, now I can save it and I have to deal with that later. Alright, so this little section sounding alright. And again, you're just writing, so it's not very important to have everything be perfect right now. I'm going to bring this back because what I want to do is now I'm actually just going to copy and paste this section. The whole thing, paste, I'm going to zoom out because I go with this. A better view. So now I have this whole thing. So the mix is obviously bad, but that's not the point now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my favorite maximizing setting, throw it on there, just to give some overall volume to this. I could just turn on my speakers, but that's what I usually do. And then my guitars are too loud. I want to hear the drums a little more, so I'm going to turn that down. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to modify these drums a little bit now. So one thing I like to try, it doesn't always work, is just try to add some kind of 3 feel on top of this. So I'm just going to kind of cut some stuff. Now this might sound terrible, keep that in mind, but it's just an experiment, and it's a thing that works sometimes, so that's why I'm bothering. I'm just going to try it for the first section. Yeah, so I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know if I like it or not. And another little trick I'll do sometimes is to kind of add this upbeat hi-hat thing, or 2/4 thing on the hi-hat. And I'm just going to leave that how it is, but the idea is you keep exploring, and then you get something that you like. So I'm going to loop this whole section again. Right, so now the idea that kind of popped in my head as I was listening to that is I'm going to have some kind of rhythmic section next that I want to add some kind of leads to create more depth, I guess, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to check my timer here at 15 minutes. All right. So turn off my looper, and for now I'm just going to copy and paste this drum section because it's the simpler one, as in it doesn't have the triplet or 3 feel over it. So I'm going to bring up this drum part, and I'm going to tweak it somewhat. I'm not exactly sure yet. So one thing I'm going to try, just because I want to be lazy, and this is just for the purpose of this video, is I'm just going to record that rhythm just on the open E string. So I'm going to give that a go on the track. Get ready, set, go. Fucked up. Alright, so that one I happen to like. So I'm going to flatten and merge, go to the other section, try to do it again on the other side, switching pickups. Ready, set, go. Alright, so now I got a layered version of that. So now I'm going to duplicate my guitar track. This one I'm going to be centered because I'm going to do some leads. Don't always have to center it, of course. That's just, I know, tends to work. So I'm going to move my limiter down. I'm going to keep my compressor and EQ up here and give myself some room. So one of my favorite effects, I'm going to my Waves stuff, and I'm going to load H delay. Now it doesn't matter what delay you use. This just happens to be my favorite. I bought the Waves Gold bundle a while back, and I love it. They do have it on sale every so often, so instead of $700, you can get it for like $300, and that's what I did. So I'm going to keep my distorted guitar setting on. I'm going to get ready, and I have no idea what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to kind of play it, and then just play some ideas over it as I go. Alright, so just to kind of get an idea of what range I'll be playing in, I'm also going to put on a reverb while I'm here. And this is too quiet, at least for the purpose of writing. So I'm going to do that. Oh, I think... for some reason my setting came in as mono. Usually I get a ping pong option here. So what I could do is I could go on up and create a new audio track. Go on here, just for the purpose of being quick. I'll go down and I'll upload or turn on this Waves plugin again. Go to quarter note, turn this down. Keep that where it is. Turn on ping pong, and then I'm going to close this, get rid of it, and activate the track. Alright, so now I have my ping pong setting. I won't deal with all the compressors and EQ yet, at least. That's usually for the mixing stage. So I'm just going to loop this and just play a bunch of different stuff. Alright, so I screwed up, but I do have an idea, and I'm going to record it real quick. That sounds pretty boring now, but the thing that I usually do, and usually makes riffs like this sound great, is I'm going to create another lead track. I'm going to go on this one. Now you don't have to do this yet, you could just play the part and then use the effects, but I like to hear how it sounds as I'm going. So what I just did as I was talking is I added a spreader, and that just kind of gives some width to the layer I'm about to add. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to octavize, as I like to say, this riff. So that little thing. I'm just going to play either an octave up or octave down. I think I'm going to try an octave up first just to see how it sounds. So let me just look, make sure I can know how to play this an octave up. Alright, I'm going to give it a go. so that is definitely sounding better. I'll play it here. Now, just for the sake of experimentation, I'm going to duplicate this layer, or this track, and I'm going to try doing some kind of harmony. I think I'm going to shoot for a third and see how it goes. Is that a third? Yeah, it's a third. And then if not, it might sound terrible, but it's just something I like to experiment with sometimes. Something got screwed up there, and this happens every so often where your H delay will reset itself. So I'm just going to put that back. That's why everything sounded so off there. I wasn't just playing as terribly as it sounded. This one was good. Sometimes it happens. I'm going to do that again. Alright, so I tried two things there. The first one was fourths, the second one was thirds. And what I did not like was the thirds. So I'm going to load up the fourths. Now I deleted it, I hit undo, and now I'm getting the spinning rainbow wheel of death here. So, alright, so that did load without crashing, it just took a sec. So I have this back. So I'm roughly liking this. I added a little fade just because I don't want to hit this clipping thing at the end. And I don't feel like snipping it shorter. So I'm actually going to go into my EQ. I'm going to pull up a solo both of these. Add an EQ to both. Stagger them like this so it's clear which one's which. Actually, I'm going to do all three. Cool. I'm going to turn on the post analyzer for both. Now, usually with leads, you do kind of cut off the bottom to some degree. Just because when the rhythms are going and the bass is going, you really don't need that bass there, and there isn't much information there. Even if I turn this off, most of the information you want is here. This stuff is just extra stuff, so I just kind of trim it. So I'm just going to kind of adjust these side by side, give them their own little notches, so to speak. So this is kind of experimentation. I listened, I wanted to see what I thought sounded good in my head, and then just fooled around with it until it sounded like how I wanted it to. The idea was that this one's the octave. I wanted to give it some kind of boost to stand out. I am going to turn both of these down because they're kind of supposed to be in the background. This one has some kind of boost in the 2 to 5K region because that's what your ear will pick up on in terms of like what will stand out. So it's kind of that 2 kilohertz range. Where the human voice is located, and that's what our ears are tuned to listen to. So you can look up the science in that if you want. And then on this one, I kind of boosted the higher region and cut some of that region because I wanted to bring out the higher overtones. And I'm going to put that down even more. I'm going to go to my spreader, and I'm just going to kind of turn this up higher than what it is for the other one. Alright, so that sounded pretty good. Now, just to put the icing on the cake, after I put my guitar down, I'm going to load up a synth. And I do like incorporating synth into metal music because you don't hear it very often, and when I do, I just like it. It's a little more unique to me to kind of mix that electronic stuff in, versus so many metal bands where it's just crushing guitar all the time. So I'm going to go to my instruments and load up native instruments, and I'm going to go for FM8 because why not? Again, this is all trial and error. I've done this a lot, so I know what I like, what I used a lot. You will know what you like and what you do a lot, so you can kind of apply this to what you do. So I'm just going to solo it first because I just want to kind of get a sound that'll drive in my head. And the kind of sound I'm looking for is something that goes to the tempo. So I'm just going to turn on tempo sync, and it's probably going to be some kind of synth. So I'm not gonna pick a certain one. I don't think. I'm just going to kind of do tempo sync and then see what I can find. So I'm going to go to my MIDI here, and the key of the song's in E. It does have some. It's probably in D minor technically. I guess I haven't established it yet, but I think it's in D minor. And so I'm just going to do E because that's the bass rhythm note that I'm hitting here, and that's the center note I'm doing in the sleep bar here. So I'm going to hit E. Don't want it that low. Again, it can be that low. It's not what I'm looking for. Turn on one of these. Nope. So now I'm going to turn on synth because I'm not getting anything I like. I don't know why anyone would use that one. That one sounds interesting. I'm going to try bringing it an octave up and try it. It's very basic, but... And again, what I usually do here is that I open up one of my synth editors, and I just fool around with the presets, and then it's not until I find a sound, and sometimes I'll find a sound and be like, great, and I'll use it. I might throw some reverb, delay on it, whatever. But sometimes I'll go, hey, I want it to sound somewhat different, so I might have to actually go into like the arpeggiator, pick what it's doing, or the effects, and change it here. I don't really know how to use the expert settings because it's pretty advanced in FMA, so usually I don't mess with that, but sometimes I would just poke around and see what I can do. So I'm going to try this. And just because I'm going to go to my waves section, I'm going to put on another H delay. I'm going to set it to a quarter note, and I'm going to make it ping pong, put the wet down. Just to kind of give it a little more realism, I guess, also with the reverb. And I'm just going to try it out. It's definitely not, it's getting overwhelmed, so I'm going to go in here and put a limiter on it. And again, don't have to use my limiter, you can use any limiter. It doesn't matter, use whichever one you like. So I'm going to experiment with this a little bit before I commit. So I wouldn't say this sounds bad, but I don't really like it that much. So I'm just going to kind of turn some of this stuff down, go back to the drawing board. No. I'll give it a shot. Don't like it. Give that a shot. Alright, so it sounded awful, so I'm just gonna duplicate, loop the whole thing, and see how it sounds. So I actually like that. It gives it a kind of evil, eerie sound to kind of hover over the back of our sound. So another kind of trick to, think of how far you've come so far. Let me just check my time. I've been going for about a half an hour, so I'm going to try to wrap this up soon. So what I was talking about is that one trick to kind of listen to see how far you've come is you can kind of mute everything and just listen to your drum part. And just the 1 minute or so it took you to come up with this drum part, you were able to write this. which is pretty boring by itself. Maybe you'd use that for kind of a heavy section. It's up to you. But then using that, you're able to kind of get a key and then write some kind of layered lead riff and transition from that. Again, better and better. And then you add a layer. Then you add another layer. And then you add some synth. So, just a matter of what in this video would be a half an hour, but realistically, without having to explain it, this might take me, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And I went literally from this to this. Which is pretty amazing. Before the days of computers, you would just have to write music with other people or by yourself, and you would only get one perspective of this. But now, just writing by yourself, you can get a somewhat final representation of what your song will sound like when you actually go to the studio or record a final version in your house, whatever you decide to do. So that's it for this tutorial. I might do some more of this in the future with different ideas, different styles of music just to explore. But this is the kind of premise of this kind of modern writing style that hasn't been available until the modern era. So leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you want to check out more. Anything you want to do for this video, it just helps more people see my videos, which I love. And I appreciate anyone that leaves me a comment or a like. So thank you very much. I'm going to play the song after this video so you can hear the final kind of mastered state and if I decide to do any extra tweaks after the fact. Alright, thanks.